unfiltered, no sugar added talk radio. Welcome into the realest show on radio, your daily dose of reality radio. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I am Clay Edwards. I'm live in the Mac Hike of Flowood Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Studios on a post-Super Bowl Monday here in central Mississippi. Good morning out there to everyone. I've got a couple guests in the studio with me, a couple old school Jacksonians, a couple old school friends here. We're going to talk about the music scene. We're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. But first, I want to talk about, I've been waiting all weekend for this. I want to talk about some shenanigans that popped off on Twitter the other day. Let me pull up my account here. Oh, let's see, profile, pull it down here. And one of the dumbest comments that I have seen in a long time. Miss Maze Brown. Maze Brown, you may not know, works for the local ACLU chapter here in Jackson, Mississippi. So, speaking of the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Laws, when are we going to put those on the terrorist watch list? That's what they are, the terrorists.
You're right.
Yes, sir, the terrorist. So, Maze got hung up in the rodeo, the Dixie National, the Great Dixie National Rodeo event going on in Jackson right now, which is, by the way, is up 30% in attendance year over year from last year. And they hadn't even got to their sold-out Lainey Wilson concert yet Wednesday night. But with all that said, they do their rodeo parade. And let me read you Miss Maze Brown's tweet here. Why are police blocking traffic to 55 from downtown? Because there are white people riding down the street in horse and carriage with Confederate flags, USA flags, and, clutch the pearls, Blue Lives Matter flags flying on the back of them. This is so unserious. Is the rodeo in town? And during Black History Month, nonetheless. Y'all, this is what it said. I ain't making it up at all.
That's a real tweet, right?
That's a real tweet. I've got it retweeted here. And I screenshot it and put it on my Instagram and all that. I'm just out of Facebook jail about 5 o'clock yesterday, so I hadn't had a chance to share it there yet for all the good times. But my response was simple and plain. They've been doing that rodeo parade longer than she's been alive. It's one of the only traditional events that hasn't left this third world hellhole called Jackson, Mississippi. I guess if it was rainbow flags and BLM flags flying off the back of that thing, everybody'd be just fine with it. So, look, I am no fan of the Confederate flag. I don't care two scoops about the Confederate flag, the original Mississippi flag, none of that. I would have voted to change it if I'd had a vote in the matter. Don't care. I always associated that with Ole Miss. I'm a Mississippi State fan. That's just my reasoning for not caring for the flag. It's that simple. I was a Dukes of Hazzard fan, so I always thought it was cool on the roof, but it doesn't bother me. But I understand why. It's offensive to others, so I'm kind of on both sides of that a little bit. But with all that said, the Dixie National, I would be willing to bet brings more money, especially from out-of-towners, than any other event other than the State Fair. I bet it beats JSU football. I bet it beats St. Patty's Day. I bet it beats everything from money spent in the city, especially from out-of-towners, than any other event that comes to that city. Everything is left to city. We have had to bend the knee to everything these people wanted for the last 40 years. They can deal with a little bit of rodeo traffic and some offensive things that they may have to see on flying off the back of them for 2 weeks. And that is my thoughts on that. If you guys want to chime in, the Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. The phone line here in the studio is 601-879-0002. We're streaming worldwide at WYAB.com. On the TuneIn app, just search WYAB. And, of course, we are on the terrestrial airwaves at 103.9 FM WYAB. And I forget we do have a tagline here on the radio station. That is Stimulating Talk Radio, WYAB. All right, in studio. To my left, my immediate left, I've got Darrell Dirty D. Arnold. What's up?
What up, Clay Edwards?
What's going on, brother?
Happy to be here, brother.
Man,
good morning.
I never thought I'd be in a radio studio with the two of y'all before 8 o'clock.
Yeah, really.
And right across from me, I've got the one and only Mr. Brian Jones.
What's going on, Clay?
What's going on, Brian?
Man, like you said, 8 o'clock, before 8 o'clock. We're on. Yeah.
So Brian,
that's weird.
Brian and I both grew up in South Jackson in the heyday, and Brian went off to do a bunch of rock and roll stuff and he still does for that matter. He ended up being the lead singer of one of my all-time favorite bands, Lillian Axe, not Lillian and Axe. Lillian Axe with our one of our all-time favorite guitar players, Stevie Blaze. That was cool. How long were you in Lillian?
12 years.
12 years.
12 years. I'm the
Wow.
consistent longest running singer.
That's cool. That's cool. You did a bunch of really cool stuff, and you've gotten back, and you've been doing your acoustic stuff, and you've been doing whatever else it is you do. And I noticed that something kind of popped up in my news feed the other day I did not see coming. I saw Full Moon Circus is back together.
Yeah.
And both of y'all are in it.
Yes, that's right. We're doing some reunion shows. That's right.
Full Moon Circus' first ever show was at my bar.
That is a true story.
Brian brought a motorcycle.
Yeah, we didn't know how we were going to do it. Clay was gracious enough to. I remember reaching out to Clay, and at the time, if you remember, that was Paul. Paul and I were real close friends at that time. But Paul from 12 Stones, and of course they were on Wind Up at the time, and they were doing really, really good. Their debut record, if you remember, that went platinum. Actually, it did go platinum, but Clay had them at. Clay obviously is a staple in Jackson in terms of both of you guys, for that matter, having venues that I've played. And but Clay was gracious enough to let us play at the. I think you may have
That
been
was
there.
Crazy 8.
That was Crazy 8.
I was in California at that time.
And that was our first official show, which was, oh Lord, 99, 2000.
Yeah.
99.
It would have been it would have been 2001.
Yep.
We opened up
2001,
August of 01.
That's correct. And then so we did that show with 12 Stones, and that was a sold out night. That was fun.
It was.
Clay gave us that opening spot.
That was the Low Dough day before Thanksgiving show.
It was, and that's kind of
$10 to get in, and you got 3 great bands. I don't remember who the third was. Maybe Fuse X or Blindside with Fred and them. I can't quite remember.
It was the Sean Patterson's band.
Was it? Okay.
The Something Blue. I remember. But that was a good
Was it Cloud 9?
Cloud 9. That's it. Sorry, Cloud 9. And but that was a fun show, and that was our first show at Full Moon Circus, and then we went on to end up touring 13 states. And
then when I got back from California, I actually joined up with those guys. They talked to me on the phone while I was in L.A.
Went and picked them up at the airport.
I said, I'm coming back. They said, hey, come on, jump in the band. Let's keep on going. Don Grant, of course, Brian, Chris Crawford. Fun times, bro. Good times.
All right, so this other familiar voice here, Dwight Sullivan chimed in and on the text line and said, I hear a familiar voice, Dirty D. Dirty D and I always tell a story about the time I lived in L.A. In my mind, it was about a year. According to my mom, it was about three weeks, maybe a month. I can't remember, but
I can remember. I just don't remember how long.
Yeah, I don't remember how long either. I know I was scared of flying, so I rode the train from New Orleans all the way to L.A. 2.5 days on a train by myself.
That too.
And when I ran out of money and it was time to come home, I called my mama at 6 o'clock that night. I won't come home. And by 6 a.m. I was flying out of Burbank commercial for the first time in my life.
But we did have fun while you were there.
We did. 6 a.m. catching a flight, and I was 2 or 3 beers in already. I was like, if I'm going down with a buzz. Early morning.
I don't think I even knew that story.
Yep. Clay was out there for, I don't know, maybe a month.
Was that when JJ was there still?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was me, JJ, Darrell, and Chops.
Oh,
and of course, Dewey Bragg.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like three or four of us were sharing a studio apartment down off West Alameda Boulevard.
That's right.
I never remembered. I do not remember that. So that would have been prior to.
That was.
Was that after Crazy 8?
Before.
Okay.
That was post Buffalo Chips, pre Crazy 8.
So it was between The Edge and.
Yeah.
Crazy 8.
But speaking of one of Clay's venues that they were just talking about, Crazy 8. Later, I don't know, a couple of years later, I was playing with Leif Garrett, and we stopped in one night. Had a great visit over there.
We did. I was going to bring that up. So Darrell ended up playing bass for 70s teen idol Leif Garrett.
Yeah, it doesn't get much bigger than that. I've always teased him about it. It's amazing.
It is.
Because he's so humble about it. I'm like for the young kids that don't really realize it, even I'm not young, but I didn't realize the extent of it, how big
Leif Garrett was. I didn't either until I kind of got inside the little circle there.
Yeah.
And did some shows with him and stuff. And just, I mean, that dude in middle of nowhere, Mississippi and Louisiana is going to pull 500 people. So it's going to be 50 plus, 60 plus women, 50 age wise. But I mean, he was huge. I mean, I'm trying to think of a comparison to an artist now, like a Jonas Brother.
Yeah,
or any actor, or you could even use the analogy as a young actor,
or maybe Justin Timberlake, sort of.
Huge. I Was Made for Dancing was just humongous.
Also, a lot of people don't realize that Leif did about 468 movies and TV shows. Of course, one of my all-time favorites was The Outsiders. He was the preppy guy that got killed off in the park with the knife shot.
I love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Darrell, we just got a text in on the Guns and Gear text line from Scott Jones. Says, I remember Dirty D from 1985.
Whoa.
But I think he was known as Crash back then.
Lord have mercy. Yeah, that's going way back. That's pre-charade days.
So if you're of a certain age, let's just say, especially 50 and older, in Jackson, and you went to the Town Creek or any of those old legendary,
or even the dock
bars,
for that matter.
The dock bars. Well, starting as early as Town Creek,
right?
You know, and that era, you know, Darrell played in some of the most well-known bands in the history of the city, from Charade to Southern Grunge. Am I forgetting any? I mean, as far as like before you moved out to L.A.
I mean, we started it all off with a band called Trouble at Blue Jean Alley, so
yeah,
and then it went from there.
Hey, we got to take a break real quick, but when we come back, I want to ask y'all: have y'all seen the movie? Since we're kind of on Mississippi music stuff this morning, we're gonna hit some political stuff too. I got some topics I want to hit, but have y'all seen the Elvis movie, the new one?
I have.
Yeah.
Garbage. I tried watching it over the weekend. It was just chaotic comic book.
Not a big fan.
If you don't know anything about Elvis, it was just like a highlight reel of Elvis and kind of in and out. At first, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, but surely it'll calm down.
Right.
And it never did. And then the fact that, I guess we'll just run over on this segment, because then you go through the fact that they're playing like 1950s era specific music, and then next thing you know, they're walking down Bill Street and I hear 3 6 Mafia. In 1950, it's like
I noticed that too. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? You know, I was like, pretty sure that didn't exist in 1950 on Bill Street.
Well, the premise of the movie, if you go back and watch, was really geared more towards Colonel Tom Parker. It really wasn't necessarily about Elvis.
Yeah.
So a biopic about Elvis, no, I agree with you. I don't think it was well done. I thought he played a great role. He's a great actor, but it was more based on
Colonel on the Colonel's.
You know, I know it won a bunch of awards, and it was trash. I just, again...
Well, right now it's hard to watch any movie, let's be honest, without the cancel culture and the wokeness. And, I mean, really, if you watch anything that goes from Netflix all the way to the movie theaters, it's hard to find any movie without them sticking all that in your face now.
Yeah, when I get home today, I'm actually canceling my cable and everything now that the Super Bowl's over. And I know I probably didn't even have to have that. I could just plug in the antenna, but I got YouTube TV. And it ain't because I'm making a stand.
Right.
It's because I just don't watch. I watch YouTube videos.
Right.
And I watch Rumble videos. And that's it. I don't watch TV anymore. Well, Netflix has just gone to absolute trash.
Well, they're cramming the agenda down your throat.
Yeah, well, it ain't just the agenda. And that's a huge part of it, absolutely. Right. And we're going to talk about the agenda today. And in the entertainment industry and all the devil worshiping and all that. And I want y'all's opinions on, is it any different now than it was when we were watching Motley Crue throw at the pentagrams and the Satan horns? And, you know, get your opinions on that versus now. But it's just not good. They're so scared of offending anybody on any side that they're just throwing out this vanilla trash.
Very vanilla, yep.
That's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? All right, let's take a break real quick. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm joined live here in the Mac Haik of Flowwood Studios by my good friends Dirty D, Darrell Arnold, and Brian Jones. They've put Full Moon Circus back together. They got some big shows coming up. We're going to talk about that and more. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show, live here in the Mac Haik of Flowwood Studios with Darrell Dirty D Arnold and Brian Jones. And this segment is going to be brought to you by Stonington Farm Beef. They're making a trip up to Jackson, the Jackson area. They'll meet you in Brandon and Ridgeland Friday around 2 p.m. I think is the time. But look, get in touch with them. Go to StoningtonFarm.com and get you some 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef from Stonington Farm right out of Perkinston, Mississippi. You want to start eating healthier, you want to take control of your life away from big government, What you put on your plate is a great way to start. Hormone-free, the whole 9 yards. Taking your health serious by what you put on your plate. It makes a big, big difference. I cooked some, and I'm going to post a picture of this now that I'm out of Facebook jail. I took some sirloin I had, cut it up into squares and made some steak bites. And I kind of offset the fact that it's supposed to be healthy food, but I did put some Hoover sauce on it, which kind of got a slight teriyaki flavor, and threw them on the grill yesterday. My goodness, they were fine.
I think I saw your picture.
Yep. And so with all that said, get you some grass-fed, hormone-free, grass-finished beef, locally sourced from right here in Mississippi, Stonington Farm. They're making a delivery to the Jackson area Friday, so go to their website, get the number, call Miss Katie Stonington, and they will customize an order for you. You don't have to pick a package A, package B, package C their way. They do it your way, right away at Stonington Farm Beef. All right, StoningtonFarm.com. One more time is the website. Can't remember that, can't spell it, hit your boy up. I will send you the link. All right, in the studio, Darrell, Dirty D, and Brian Jones. Hey, Darrell, you mentioned something during the break. Let's talk about Jackson for just a second.
Okay.
It's like a running trope on this show that if I don't do Jackson gas stations. Hell, I don't do Jackson, but I definitely don't do Jackson gas stations. If I run out of gas in Jackson, I will push my car all the way back to Rankin County before I'll push it by 3 Jackson gas stations before I stop at one of them.
Yep. Agree.
You were driving down the interstate in Jackson not too long ago, about 6 months ago?
About 6 months ago, I was on my way back from Vicksburg, and instead of taking the 220 bypass, which I do sometimes, but that night I stayed on 55 and right there at the Gallatin Street where the Pilot truck stop is.
I-20, you mean?
I mean, yep. Right there where the truck stop is. I hear this. It sounds like a shotgun, basically, or a bomb. And what had happened, somebody had thrown a brick and hit my car, I guess, to, get me to pull over so they could rob me or maybe even kill me. Who knows? But I didn't stop. I actually just sped up and went on down to the Rankin County, the first Pearl exit, got off. Some police officers were there, and I showed them the dent and told them what happened. And, of course, they agreed with me. They said, we're not going over that area, and you shouldn't either. I said, that's right, I'm not. But anyway, it's just a sad state. Really, it is a sad state. Because I wanted to say this earlier. When we were young, all 3 of us, we grew up with a great band scene, great people in a great little city called Jackson. Those days are gone.
Well, look, and there's one group of people to point the finger at that have destroyed it. They're the same people who can't self-govern. They're the same people who are raising hell about the state trying to step in and actually literally save Jackson.
I know.
They're literally trying to save Jackson by getting some good judges in here that will actually prosecute and follow the law and uphold the law. And, of course, these folks are kicking and screaming and clawing. I mean, these are the same people, Darrell, that sued the city of Jackson for roadblocks.
Wow.
I mean, something that can easily help make your neighborhood a little bit safer.
A little bit, that's right.
Just a little bit safer. Right. I mean, most criminals, as dumb as most of them are in Jackson, but say, all right, there's blue lights right there. We're going to pump the brakes right now. We're just going to pump. There may be some roadblocks. Like, what keeps a lot of crime off the streets in Rankin County? The fear of effing around and finding out.
That's right. And you will find out in Rankin County.
I mean, just like yesterday, I went to a Super Bowl party. Had 2 or 3 beers. I was like, all right, that's it. That's my limit. That's 2 or 3. And I'm waiting an hour. Halftime, we didn't stay for the whole game. Went on back home. And because I got to drive down 471. I'm not going to be the poster boy for effing around and finding out in Rankin County. People know that Jackson is a lawless hellhole. And it ain't even like people think I got it out for JPD. I absolutely do not. I have a lot of respect for the boots on ground foot soldiers in JPD. It's the upper command and the mayor that I have no respect for in JPD because they lead through their political bias.
Right.
And whatever the woke agenda is, and they don't fight crime.
And it's happening in a lot of cities across the USA.
Yep.
A lot. And Jackson, I mean, let's just be honest, it's just really gone to,
Yeah. I mean, with the exception of, and every time I name a few places, I forget a few, but whatever. with the exception of like Martin's and Capitol Grill.
Howlin' Mal's. And, and I went to a great event for the Phoenix Club of Jackson Friday night down at the old Magoo's Voodoo Lounge. I think it's called the Station Depot or something. Railroad Depot, yeah.
Railroad Depot right in front of the South Warehouse. But that's not a club. That's an event space.
Right.
And there was plenty of security out there. Didn't have to worry about anything. But with the exception of a handful of places, man, where do you feel safe going to in Jackson?
I mean, and unfortunately we can combine this into the music scene because there used to be so much to do in Jackson.
Well, yeah, I am referring to the music to the nightlife scene,
right?
Here.
And unfortunately, like you said, it is unsafe with the exception of an every now and then event. Yes, those are safe.
Where the owners of these venues have decided they're not worried about, they're not going to depend on Jacksonians or JPD or the leadership of Jackson for their safety. They're handling it as an expense, like we did when we had the club downtown. People could say whatever. Oh, you had clubs, you had fights, you had this. But what we never had in my club was a shooting or a stabbing.
That's right.
And most any other club in Jackson can't say that nowadays.
Right. And then you add the fact that if for some horrible reason that does happen at a venue in Jackson, such as a venue in Chicago, the people don't really get prosecuted.
No.
So,
man, I had a buddy of mine that's a bail bondsman reach out to me last week. He said, man, we just bonded a guy to jail here in Raymond from Jackson that was in there for capital murder. He got a $10,000 bond. His family only had to pay, the 10%.
Right,
so
which was $1,000. Right.
I think it $1,150 with their fee or $1,050, whatever, to get out of jail on murder.
Yeah.
It costs that much to get out of jail on a DUI, I think.
Or if not more. Yeah.
Unreal.
I mean, catch and release. Most of these people and most of these judges are doing this catch and release stuff, and that's why the state is having to step in. And the Constitution gives the state the ability. They give the legislature the ability to vote on these things. I'm hoping HB 1020 passes, if for nothing else. You remember when they finally passed or did away with Roe versus Wade?
I do.
Or Roe or whatever, and they showed all the they showed all the highlights. It was kind of like 2016 election night. They showed all the liberals crying and reeing and screaming. I can't wait to watch these old Democrats around here ree and scream and cry. Especially guys like Kamikaze and that crew. I'll call him by name on here. I don't like him.
I don't either.
He's a racist. And it's okay.
I don't know him like you guys do, so I can't really comment much.
I can't wait to see that. I call it the hashtag Woke Jackson crew. I can't wait to see them screaming and reeing and crying and and it's all just to make their life better. I don't live in Jackson.
No.
But
none of us.
But I would like to be able to safely come to Jackson and enjoy some things. I'd like to be able to go down to highball lanes in Fondren when I hadn't to worry about a drive-by shooting.
Yep. And and then we haven't even began to talk about all the other issues with the water problem in all these places. Unfortunately, either having to go out of business or almost go out of business.
And that's the problem. That's the problem with Jackson is you get these guys that anytime somebody actually wants to try to help Jackson, they want to scream racism. It's like, well, hold on, man. This is going to save more black lives than anything that's currently coming out of Jackson leadership, than any policy y'all currently have. This HB 1020 will save more black lives in Jackson than any other single policy y'all have in place.
And more poverty. It will save more poverty, too.
It will prevent poverty.
Right.
It'll help stabilize the real estate market over there.
Yep.
It will help stabilize the tax base. Money goes where money feels safe. Poverty goes where it has to.
Yep. Unfortunately, it does.
Let's take a break real quick. This is the Clay Edwards Show, joined by Dirty D, Darrell Arnold, and Brian Jones on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. Live here in the Mac Hike of Flowood Studios. Man, y'all get over there to Mac Hike of Flowood. Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Get you a new vehicle today. Go see Corey and the team over there. Home of the $399 car payment. Home of the in and out in 1 hour once you've decided and picked your vehicle out. Don't be unrealistic. It takes a minute. Pick the right vehicle, get with a good salesperson over there, a good knowledgeable salesperson, work through the trim levels, make sure you're buying the one that fits you best. As a car salesman, that's important, man. Drive a few, start at the bottom, start at the entry level, and then work your way up to the limiteds, because you may find something in the middle there that works out just right for you. And once you do that, once you get inside, you start your paperwork, their promise is to get you in and out in 1 hour. They got some massive rebates and cash back going on over there right now. You can check it all out online, MacHike.com, or just go Google Mac Hike Flowwood, and it'll pop up for you. Or heck, even better, just go right there, Lakeland Drive at Airport Road, Mac Hike of Flowwood. All right, here in the studio, the Mac Hike of Flowwood Studios, I've got Brian Jones and Dirty Darrell D. Arnold. These are two Jackson traditions here. Staples in the local music scene. Brian, a staple in the national music scene as well. And then you have me that had the venues and promoted concerts. These guys, they know what to expect when you come on the show. We're not going to dodge tough topics just because they're musicians or they're not comfortable talking about it. It's we break rules when necessary around here. That's more than just a slogan. And one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit here, I want to steer away from Jackson for 1 second. We can go Jackson wall to wall. Musicians,
right?
Super Bowl last night, halftime show. That ain't for us.
No,
it is not programmed for straight males.
Yeah, well, it's also the whole middle-aged male. Nothing's really for us anymore.
They kind of threw us a bone with Chris Stapleton on the national anthem.
And he did a fantastic job. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Great job. But the halftime show, I mean, man, maybe Metallica just don't want to do it. Maybe that's the case. Maybe, and look, I know Garth is a cuck liberal, but maybe Garth, I would still like to see Garth do the Super Bowl, kind of like how Paul McCartney and them did. But I could suspend my anger for his political beliefs for a night to see Garth do the Super Bowl.
Right.
It would be cool. Because it would be over the top, Elvis type stuff, and
or like the Prince.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. The Prince or the Paul McCartney one, something like that. To me, everybody goes to the Prince as being the greatest one. I'll be honest, that Paul McCartney one
was awesome.
Was fun. The whole field became a stage. It was phenomenal. It's very underrated. But Metallica, the Rolling Stones. There's some big bands, big artists out there other than hip hop and R&B. That ain't done it yet, that feel like, man, we're going to get to that point where they've aged out of being able to do it. And again, maybe Metallica doesn't want to, but I doubt that. It would feel like that's the feather in the hat at the end of a career right there.
I would think so.
But man, all this hip hop, and look, I'll be the first to say, I enjoyed last year's with all the Dre and Snoop and Eminem.
Too, actually, yep.
And all that took me back to when I got my license in '92. I mean, I enjoyed that. I know everybody can hate on it, but
that was straight up Midnight Sun, the Edge times, catwalk,
and they kept the politics out of it and all that. And I can enjoy that. I was telling the story last Monday. So last weekend we went to the I Love the '90s tour up there in the Silver Star.
Oh, I saw your post. Yeah,
Vanilla Ice, Tone Loc basically died on stage, and Rob Bass. Yeah, Tone hashtag died suddenly, but they brought him back. They said it was a epileptic seizure. But I think otherwise.
Yeah, I did see that, yeah.
But with all that said, it was an amazing show. It was an amazing good time. There was not one word of any of the political buzzwords. I didn't hear equality, equity, racism. Unity. I didn't hear a single one of those words. It was all like, do my fellas run this? Hell yeah. Just that kind of stuff back and forth.
Just a party.
It was a party, man. The whole thing. Even the downtime, because they got a DJ with a hype man. It was a party. And that's what music should be. Music should be a party.
Right.
Now, look, is there a time and a place for a political message in music? Yeah. If I go search out that artist and that has that message, then I've decided that's the time and the place for me to listen to that. Halftime at the Super Bowl.
Not the time
or
the place.
Or the place. Thank you. Okay. So one of the big things been going around here lately is since the Grammys last week, and this has been every year for the last few years, these big awards.
I know.
It's one devil worshiping thing or another. I don't watch the crap, so I don't care. I care because
I literally don't watch it, but I do kind of care.
Exactly. So one of the things is I just said to myself, well, bro, I have a hard time getting too riled up about it. I grew up with drawing pentagrams and Motley Crue and going to Marilyn Manson concerts.
Ozzy Osbourne, Alice Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, just all, Knights in Satan's Service, Kiss, I mean, I just grew up with all of this messaging. I listened to death metal. I mean, growing up, Deicide and slow Slayer, I mean, even rap, like 3 6 Mafia.
I still do. I'm wearing a Cradle of Filth shirt.
So. Yeah. I mean, so am I being a little bit of a hypocrite if I get mad about Sam Smith and I don't even know the girl's name or Little Nas X? I mean, it's disgusting. I don't care for it at 45.
Right.
But
I'll intervene on that if you don't mind. I don't think.
Please do.
I don't think that's. No. So, to draw an analogy, what you just said back, what we were doing, that was more gimmick related. I mean, that was when music mattered. You were trying to move records. You were trying to move sales. That's when tangible product made you money, and touring, obviously. But even more so back then, tangible product made you more money, more so than touring. Now it's the opposite. Now you have to tour. So
when he says tangible product, he's talking about merchandise and record sales.
Correct. Right. Yeah, not physical.
Real records, real cassettes.
When we were in this game and started, streaming wasn't even an issue. Hell, they didn't have the internet.
No.
But as far as that's a good point you mentioned, Clay. As far as
it's an agenda now. It feels like it's part of a agenda to push all this now. Where then it was just a
but
gimmick.
It's being pushed with other things. That's what I was getting at. Like the Shout Out the Devil record. Okay, gimmick related. I mean, it's just every Wasp record has been gimmick related. Slayer, gimmick related. I mean, it's a very well known fact. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it to use any type of imagery. Tom Araya is a very well known devout Catholic. I mean, they don't sing about any. It's all about politics, war, things of that nature. What the difference today from then was an agenda to make money for themselves. It wasn't an agenda to influence anyone. The same with Ozzy. Ozzy has Christian beliefs. And as far as Alice Cooper, I know him personally. We've toured with Alice seven or 8 times, and one of the biggest persons of Christian belief that you will find. He's been sober.
Well, Kerry King is Slayer's a huge Trump supporter, right? Ain't that kind of why Slayer broke up finally? Was the political
they had political differences. So we go in that, but now the way it's changed is they're not as blatant. Well, the Grammys may be an exception, but they're using imagery. The third eye, of course, all Illuminati-based stuff. And we can get off. That would be getting off into a different subject altogether. But it's hidden, but it's pushed. If that makes sense. So they went overboard.
Well, you hide in plain sight.
You're hiding in plain sight.
And they do that daily.
Like. I mean, I don't think it's any secret here. I may have sold a drug or two in my life when I was going through addiction issues. I was always like, let's meet in the most busiest place and do it in plain sight. Yep. You hide in plain sight. You don't go in the dark area behind the gas station to do it. No. That's where you look ridiculous and people see you do it. You hide in plain sight.
And that's what, like I was saying earlier with movies, TV. So it is literally the whole entertainment / whatever you want to call it, Hollywood. Of course, not everyone's like that. I mean, obviously. However, the majority of the people are on board with their let's be honest, Christianity is an all-time low right now, and that's unfortunate.
And it's never been popular. Let's be honest. Even back then,
it's never been mainstream.
Right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But it's mainstream. It's synonymous with popularity. Christianity has never been popular in the United States.
And it's not a conspiracy theory; it's a fact.
That's a fact.
How many mainstream Christian artists can you name off the top of your head?
I personally can name a lot because I like
but
it.
I can only name.
But the average person
5.
couldn't, and that's what's sad.
Do you know the first Christian concert I ever went to was
Striper?
No, I can one up you.
Michael W. Smith.
Petra.
Okay, We Are Not of This World. That was their debut record. One of my favorite records. I still listen to Petra, and they're actually still around.
I went and downloaded some of it the other day.
Still making records. So, if you're talking about that, like Stephen Curtis Chapman, Petra, Carmen, Striper, obviously.
Yep.
Demon Hunter, one of my favorite bands, one of the greatest metal bands of all time, straight up Christian. Disciple. I mean,
but they're all going to be put on the back seat like movie stars are. You know, take for instance, and this is probably a corny example, but it is true, at least. All those girls that were doing the Hallmark mystery movies, you may not be a fan of them. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. They all left Hallmark because they're not going to push that other agenda.
That's right. They started the American Family Network or something like that. Yep, that's true. They're like, we're not going to push the gay agenda.
That's right.
I mean, look, man, I say it on this show all the time. People think I'm homophobic, and I am not.
Me either. Me either. And I've actually been with you out to places.
That offends me more than when they call me a racist.
Right.
Because I have never, ever cared. What I care about, I do not care what you do in your bedroom.
Right.
Do not care. But keep it in your bed. You don't want to know what I do in my bedroom.
Exactly.
Keep it in your bedroom. Don't be out there trying to do drag queen story hour and don't, you know, if I don't want to wear rainbows, I don't want to wear rainbows. It is what it is.
I think the thing that bothers me the most about all of this is what they're pushing on the children. And we all are at the age now, all three of us, where that matters. And it matters a lot.
And that goes back to, like Clay was saying, with the Grammys, which that was what I was trying to finish that statement on, was the Grammys, as opposed to back in our older days, Clay, like what you were talking about, Motley Crue and things of that nature. It's different now. So now they're pushing more than one thing, obviously. They're pushing the he, she, there. The he, she, there. You can't say him or, the gender-based, whatever
the
you want to call
transgender stuff.
Whether they're a wolf or a bird and all that. But the Satanism thing was pushed the other night, and it was very blatantly, obviously.
And it was brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah.
That's all that.
And that's not even a joke.
But the fact that the CBS, a Viacom company, allowed that on their TV, that shows you that the problem. We can talk about Epstein and stuff like that.
Did you see the CBS tweet?
Theorists. Yeah.
They said we're here to worship or something?
We are here to
that's what I'm
worship.
But it's all, look, it's not a conspiracy theory. If people don't think that the higher execs in these companies are behind this, pushing the agenda, they're highly mistaken. That what Sam Smith did, he was able to kill 4 or 5 birds with one stone. He pushed Illuminati beliefs. He pushed Satanism, if you look at it. No matter how you want to do that. He pushed whatever you want to call it. I mean, is that
the transgender?
Is that transgender homosexual? I don't know what you would even call that.
Well, the girl, I guess, the one playing female is openly had her stuff
back
removed
when she was 16
as a minor,
which was unheard of at 16 in Germany. Now she actually went through the whole thing, so she didn't take hormone. I mean, they literally. Hold that
did
thought. The surgery.
We got to take a break real quick. We're going to come back. We're going to close out the hour. We got a whole nother hour of this to go. This is the Clay Edwards Show, joined live in studio this morning by Brian Jones and Dirty D. Darrell Arnold. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. We got about a minute and a half for our top of the hour break, so I'm not going to do an ad read here. I want to say something, bring a little off-air conversation to air. I got Dirty D. Darrell Arnold and Brian Jones. They got the full Moon Circus reunion going. We're going to talk more about that in the next hour. But, one of the things we were talking about is the devil worship in the music, the imagery and all that. And now there's this big push for transgenderism. And I've seen the meme floating around that says, and it's got a picture of a bunch of 80s hair metal singers. Something about, back in my day, people didn't listen to, our singers didn't dress like girls. They absolutely dressed very feminine, but
I dressed like girls, basically.
but you never questioned,
right. You never questioned my gender, though.
Yeah, you never questioned their gender, and you dang sure didn't question their sexuality. You knew they were pursuing women,
right?
And I mean, the imagery was all there. It was always with a lot of women. Right. It never crossed my mind that the big hair, Aquanet, and spandex,
right.
Could be considered. I didn't even know the word trans. See, trans growing up, you saw these what they do, like these drag queen shows.
Right.
That, to me, that was what trans was.
We didn't know anything else.
Now you got pansexuals and transsexuals and all these other things that don't make any sense to me. But again, to each their own. Just keep it away from the kids.
Yeah.
All right. We got about 15 seconds.
You got birds and wolves.
I've got Brian Jones.
That'd be a bird.
I got Darrell Arnold in the studio. We got bears too.
Yeah.
So they got all kinds of stuff. And again, to each their own. Just keep it at home. That's all I'm saying. All right. We'll be right back. Top of the hour news break. When we come back, we got a ton of great stuff. Stay tuned. 103.9 WYAB. Award-winning podcaster. How about award-winning radio host maybe someday soon? This is The Realest Show on Radio, your daily dose of reality radio, the radio show that breaks rules when necessary. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I am Clay Edwards. I am joined in studio, the Mac Hike of Flowood Studios, by Brian Jones and Darrell Dirty D Arnold. Hello, fellas.
What's up, brother?
What's up, bro?
Coming into the next hour, y'all. Good morning.
Yes, we're going to have a good one. Real quick, man, this hour, or this segment, is brought to you by my good friends out at Guns and Gear, located right there, 51 North in Gluckstadt, right there at Yandell Road. Go see Hunter and the team for all of your firearms and ammunition and accessories needs. They got it all, man. But, hey, they're way more than just a gun and ammo store. They got you taking care of all your gunsmithing needs, Cerakoting needs, and more. You can shop them online, locally owned, locally operated, right there on 51. The website is gunsandgearms.com, just like Guns N' Roses, but Guns in the letter N, gear, ms.com, 24/7, 365. Support local, support these advertisers, and support this show and this radio station. Otherwise, we don't get to do this if you don't support them and they continue to support us. We don't take a single penny of taxpayer dollars here at WYAB. This ain't Super Take. This is WYAB. We ain't advertising welfare programs over here.
Right.
The only welfare program we advertise is get up and take your butt to work and get you a check.
Right. Get that check.
And so we do appreciate our sponsors, and we appreciate you supporting those sponsors. All right, guys. Let's clean up. Let's clean up the Guns and Gear text line real quick. We've had a bunch of engagement, and I appreciate them. So let's just run through a few. This is a kind of rapid fire here. Some of it may be on subject. Some of it may not be, but I like to catch up. One of our best texters, Reagankin, black conservative. He's got some interesting thoughts. He chimes in. When the Kansas City Chiefs going to change their name, isn't their name offensive to Indians and therefore the world? The Redskins caved. The Chiefs are overdue. The Chiefs should change their name to the Kansas City Americans or something. They used to be the Dallas Stars.
They did.
Before they moved to Kansas City. Of course, I am being sarcastic. So tired of organizations capitulating to fools. Makes the spread of fools more successful. Amen to that.
Yep.
And that's what we call the agenda.
Yep, it is.
That's the agenda. JJ chimes in, says, Petra was one of my favorite Christian bands. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they had the big in the era of '80s hair metal.
Yeah,
they were
actually the first.
Yeah, it was them. Then Stryper.
Well, there was one before Barren Cross.
Barren Cross, too.
Yeah, Barren Cross was really on up there before Stryper. But yeah, I mean, they were right around the same time.
And if you're just chiming in, man, we were talking about Christianity and music, some of the Christian rock bands and whatnot. And real quick, Stryper was one of my third or fourth concerts to ever go to. My mom was very particular about letting me go to concerts. I tricked her into a few. The hardest one ever was letting me go see Queensryche with Suicidal Tendencies opening. When I told her the name of the opening band, it was like a needle going across a record. Yeah. And I managed to get up in there. I was one of them. That was a small audience. That's probably the least attended show I've ever been to at the Coliseum, except the last Shinedown show.
But it was good.
But it was a great show. That was the Empire album. That was the Empire tour.
It was phenomenal.
Jeff Tate came out on the wheelchair doing Best I Can. I remember that.
Yeah. All right. So Cassandra chimes in. So she votes for Leonard Skinner at halftime show. I just don't think they're going to let that happen.
No, for various reasons.
And that's unfortunate because they're legendary.
One of the greatest bands of all time.
Whether you like them or not.
Look, I would even this Luke Bryan bro country stuff ain't my thing, but I wouldn't have a problem with even that. Mix it up a little bit,
right? Luke Bryan, right?
Yeah, it ain't gotta be all catered to the black demographic.
Or it don't have to be all rock either.
No. I like that year they did Aerosmith and Kid Rock and Justin Timberlake, and mix it up a little.
Yep.
Mix it up a little. I mean, how about the fact Kid Rock's been on the Super Bowl, I think, twice now. They won't let him back.
No, I'm sure they won't.
They ain't gonna let him back after that last song.
Yeah.
Him riding the I can't say it on radio. Yeah. All right, Debbie chimes in on the Guns and Gear text line, says glad it would be nice to be able to go play tennis. We're talking about the CCID being expanded in the Northeast Jackson. She goes, it would be nice to be able to go play tennis at Palm Bridges Tennis Center and not worry about your vehicle being stolen if you leave the door open for more than 10 minutes, or if you're out playing an hour and a half tennis match and they don't break into 15 cars in the parking lot. And that's a shame too. The tennis organization there has done such a great job keeping that hell, even Tennis South over off McDowell Road, they've done a great job keeping that going. And I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I don't care how much I love something. I ain't going to South Jackson to do it. Clay out.
Yeah.
Like Seacrest out, Clay out.
Yeah, me either.
Let's see here. Unknown texter chimes in and says, my limit was 1. LOL. I guess we're talking about the DUIs. He says his limit was 1. I was for sure not about to FAFO.
Right.
FAFO. Dagwood chimes in and says, they won't offend you unless you're conservative, Caucasian, Christian, Dagwood. Now look, I have really tried to make it a point to move on from just saying conservative white males. They don't like conservative black males either. They consider them a bigger threat than they consider us.
They don't like middle-aged males, especially.
Your Kim Wades of the world, your Derricks of the world that calls into the show, black conservatives, bro, they're trying to do all they can to stifle them. And we can go on and on. And Reagan, my fellow here, and so on and so forth. They're a threat.
Yep.
They are a legitimate threat to their whole agenda. Let's see here. Kimberly chimes in. She goes, Blue Jean Alley. He beat me to it.
Wow.
Unknown texter. Oh, this is Scott again. Scott said, that is Blue Jean Alley. Okay, so, all right, we're caught up on to, well, Reagan can send one last in here. He goes, the late Carmen was one of my favorite Christian entertainers. Mainstream gospel music did not like him at the time. Today, Christian music welcomes everyone.
Very good. And there are actually some good Christian bands that are newer.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, there is one mainstream one, like mainstream rock Christian band. What's the name of them?
Rock Christian band?
It's like a mainstream rock Christian band.
oh yeah, that played out in Flowwood.
Well, heck, they
the one that played at the amphitheater.
Man, no, they've played with they open up for Three Doors Down and Shine Down and them all the time. What's the name of that band? They had a guy and a girl lead singer at one point.
Oh,
I'm not sure that one, but POD is actually a
POD.
Christian band too.
POD. I know that Clay's talking about it.
I'm just drawing a blank. Heck, the guy that opened Stephen Yatroska's music bed is them. I'm just drawing a blank. But that aside, real quick, when we were in L.A., Darrell.
Yes,
and we were living off West Alameda Boulevard, right down there below.
And you may or may not have had some eyeliner on.
There's a picture. There's a very questionable picture of me and Darrell floating around. I do have it. It was Skillet. Skillet is the band I was looking for.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Texter.
you.
All right, let's take a call real quick. Hey, caller, you're on there. Hey, caller, you're on there.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were referring to 12 Stones or Evanescence.
It was Skillet.
Skillet. That was my other guess. Okay, yeah, they're great.
Yeah, they are. They
played in Fire back in the day.
They did.
And they're still around doing it.
Yeah, and they actually get rock radio play.
Yeah, they're probably the most popular Christian rock group around, I'd say.
Yeah, they are the modern day Striper.
Yeah, and there's some good Christian metal out there. If there's any metalheads listening, bands like Norma Jean, and I can't think of any others because I'm on the radio and I'm on the spot. But there's some really good Christian heavy metal out there.
That's good stuff there, brother. Hey, man, appreciate you calling.
Thank you.
Anytime, Clay. You have a good one.
You as well. We got some great callers here, man.
Yeah,
really do.
that's right.
Hey, the call-in line, by the way, if you want to chime in, talk to Brian, Darrell, or myself, 601-879-0002. The Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. Let's see here. Oh, what I was going to say real quick. When we were out in L.A., Darrell, we ended up with some crazy parties. I got to sit at the bar, at the Rainbow Bar and Grill, not a gay bar, and got to meet Lemmy from Motorhead.
Yep.
I walk up to Lemmy, and I was like, Lemmy. He's like, did you just call me Lemon? And that was my Lemmy moment. And he was sitting there playing the 8-line, the Cherry Max machine. And
with the bottle of Jack Daniels, of course.
I mean, I was straight off the turnip truck.
Right.
I mean, Darrell picked me up at Union Station.
Yep.
Again, I rode the train. Picked me up. The first stop we made was the Rainbow. I mean, I'm fresh from Mississippi.
Welcome to Los Angeles.
It was like Axl Rose stepping off the Greyhound and Welcome to the Jungle or Sweet Child of Mine, whichever video it was. Welcome to the Jungle. And it was just right off the bus, man. And I walk in, the first person I see is Lemmy. Well, Well, we were living, this is a little fun fact here. When we were living off West Alameda Boulevard, right down from us was this crazy group of quasi-Hispanic looking dudes in a metal band. And Darrell's like, yeah, they just signed a big deal with so-and-so. They're called Korn.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
It ended up being Korn.
It did.
Just like living like 2 houses down from us.
Right. And then, of course, the rest is history.
Yeah. If you don't know who Korn is, I ain't going to be the one to tell you. If you know who Korn is, you know.
Yeah, you know.
Because initially they were Bakersfield, California.
Initially, but they moved to L.A. like everybody else did back then.
So that was cool. And I've never even told that story. I don't think anybody.
I literally forgot about it till you just brought it up. Yep.
So let's see here.
I met some cool people at the Rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
That is if you ever go to Los Angeles, California, which you probably don't want to nowadays, but if you just happen to have to be there, if you go to the Rainbow, according to my friends who still go, who unfortunately are stuck in L.A. and can't get out right now, but the Rainbow is still like it used to be. It doesn't go by the new rules of California. So don't let the name confuse you. It is a still cool place to go. Still a bunch of rockers. Everybody's laid back. They don't follow the, so-called whatever it is.
And the celebrities in there are approachable.
They're very, very approachable.
But don't be an idiot.
Right.
Another little fun fact. We were at the Rainbow eating, and I got to do the whole go through the kitchen and the bathroom experience. Asked me off air. But there's this group of kids sitting in a booth. Darrell's like, and this is before the reality show. Darrell's like, you know who them are? I was like, no, I don't. He's like, that's Ozzy's kids.
Yeah.
And it was
super
Jack
young back then.
Yeah, it was because this is '99.
Right.
So you put yourself in that time frame there, and it was Jack
and Kelly
and they were questionable looking at best. Very young to be in there, but then the reality show started pretty soon after that.
They were far from 21, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and take our break, and when we come back, let's bring it back to the local music scene. This is what you guys do. This is what I want y'all to talk about. This is the Clay Edwards Show. We'll be right back with Dirty D, Darrell Arnold, and Brian Jones. We're going to talk about the Full Moon Circus reunion and more, and where you can find these guys at on a weekly basis. We'll be right back. 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. This segment is going to be brought to you by our friends over there in Florence at A1 Gear and Auto. Get over there. Check out Justin and his team for all of your automotive repair needs. But, hey, man, they can do it all. But what they specialize in, what they are the best in, is checking on stuff with your ring and pinion, gears, rear end, transfer cases, all that good stuff. So if you're having any problems with your rear ends, transfer cases, or ring and pinions, go see A1 Gear and Auto. But, hey, if your check engine light's on, swing by, let them check it out for you, see what's going on. They'll get it diagnosed and repaired. And if it's something they can't mess with, they can send you to the right folks. Kind of like when you go to see your family doctor and they can recommend you to a specialist. A1 Gear and Auto can do that, or if they, or they'll fix it there themselves. Either way, you're going to get a good, honest opinion and estimate from those guys. I highly recommend them. About to get some work done on my Tahoe over there. So A1 Gear and Auto, right there on 49 South in Florence, Mississippi. If you're going south on 49, it's going to be on your right. Big white building, big red sign right before you get to Gunner Road. You can't miss it. All right, I'm joined here in the Mac Hike and Flowwood Studios by Brian Jones and Dirty D, Darrell Arnold. And guys, look, we've been on a roller coaster ride this morning, talking about a lot of different stuff in the entertainment and culture industries and whatnot. Let's bring it back local. I know we got a lot of local musicians listening, as we do every morning, man. Shout out to all you guys for tuning in to the Clay Edwards Show. I do appreciate you. Darrell, you can be found regularly at Shuckers, amongst other places. What are you doing right now?
All right, so what's going on with me right now is, of course, I have Charade Unplugged, which, of course, is me and Rob Plafkin from the original band Charade. There's been talk of some reunions for the full band Charade. We just got to get Chris Painter on board. We got everybody else on board. But you can find me and Rob doing our duo acoustic stuff 3 to 5 nights a week. All you have to do is check out Charade Unplugged on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and the rest of the crew. And then I do a project called the Late Night All-Stars a couple of times a month at Shuckers, which is a late night deal only. and then open mic from here to there sometimes. Now, that's what all's going on with me. And as of very, very recent, like we talked about earlier, Don Grant, Chris Crawford, myself, and Brian Jones will be bringing back full Moon Circus, which hasn't happened in about 13 years. I think the last venues we played was Electric Cowboy Days. And that's a cover band we were all in back in the day. We're going to be doing some reunion shows, some of them actually start in the next 2 weeks, about 6 or so this year.
Tell us about the big one going on down there at the Byram drag strip.
Oh, okay. Sorry. That's going to be April 28th and 29th, Swinging Bridge Festival in Byram. And Clay.
Y'all playing both nights?
No, we're just doing Saturday night. Friday night is the El Dorado Band, and then Soundcheck the band.
Now, the El Dorado Band was the house band at Pops for years, so that's worth going to check out.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't seen Soundcheck, great guys. I mean, really good band. They're called Soundcheck the Band.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're on the Saturday show. And what I'm also excited about, I'm excited about us being able to play there because I've actually never played there. But I'm also excited that Driving and Crying's playing.
Yeah, so y'all are opening for Driving and Crying.
Yeah, direct support with Kevin and the guys.
That's going to be great.
And we're all friends. And
straight to hell.
Such a great band, and
like
they're still out there doing it. And I've been friends with those guys for a long time. I know Darrell's known that band for a long time. But ironically, it's funny, just to sum it up. So Darrell and I have been hearing about, so when I started the band in 99, we already discussed it for viewers that are just now our listeners that are just now getting with us. We played our first show with Clay, and that's a true story. And we ended up being a really big circuit band. We tried to pattern ourselves. I always believe if you want to be successful, look at successful people. Velcro Pygmies. I followed Velcro Pygmies. I learned, I absorbed, did all that. Same with the U.S. I mean, those were my friends, and they taught me so much. And we ended up kind of being competitors, but in a friendly, sense, because back then, we all vied to be the best at the dock. But I remember Full Moon, without people like you or Clay, or Chip Matthews or Darrell we never would have made it. And we ended up making it and playing 14 states, and we were going all the time. So we were not really a local band. We started locally because we lived here. But our first big show, how cool is that? That was when 12 Stones was on top of the world. And our first big show was opening for 12 Stones at Clay's venue,
Crazy Eight.
Obviously Crazy 8. So Byram, back to the festival, that's going to be a great time. And ironically, one of our last shows, with the exception of the Electric Cowboy, I believe in Destin, Florida, was our last show, which ties into Lillian. I can tell you that story real quick. But to the Lillian Axe saga. But the Swinging Bridge a couple of months prior to that, was one of our last shows too. And so we did play that festival before, and it was a lot of fun. It's just a small hometown, family-oriented event.
They do it well, man. It's like a family county carnival kind of setup out there.
Yep.
I've never been to it, believe it or not, even being from there. But family friendly wasn't always my thing.
Real quick, Brian, before we get into that next story, run over the dates of the Byram Festival one more time and the times, and what's the cover charge?
I believe the cover charge is at 10 or 15, I believe. And I know it's not more than 15. And that you can find more online on the Swinging Bridge Festival on Facebook. They have their own page. And the dates are April 28th and 29th, again, Friday night. Tons of stuff, rides for the children, tons of vendors, tons of food, drinks, alcoholic beverages, Southern Beverage, I believe, will be there, as well as Capital City and all of that for the adults. And then El Dorado Band as well as Soundcheck. Saturday night is followed by fireworks as well after Driving and Crying. So we will go from 6:30 to 8:30, and then 30-minute changeover, and then, of course, Driving and Crying 9 to 11, followed by fireworks.
Cool. That's going to be one of the last big events before it gets too hot to do stuff outside.
Yeah, and Driving and Crying, people don't realize how big they were.
They're huge.
And I mean, they've gone platinum several times, but that first record with Honeysuckle Blues and then Straight to Hell, and then you got Fly Me Courageous on the other.
Right, which we played that on 98 Rock for over and over.
And they're still out doing it, so we're really excited about playing that show.
Brian, what else are you doing? You play? You still gigging acoustic around town and stuff?
Yeah, man, I always have my my hand in something. So the Full Moon thing came up. Darrell and I had been hearing about it from our other two members for years, so it kind of became a running joke. We're like, okay, well, whenever y'all are ready, just let us know. And 3 years later, I finally was like, you know what? I'll just book the shows because otherwise they're just going to keep talking about it. And so that's how that happened. And then we're excited. We're working hard, and it's going to be a fun event. And we're all older, so when you get to this age, you appreciate those things a little more.
Well, we need some more full. While as much as I am happy for all you guys to find success doing the unplugged stuff, and all that around town, and that the venues that maybe not can hold bands are opening their arms to that type stuff. And again, that y'all can make a living being musicians in Central Mississippi is a phenomenal feat in and of itself. I am excited for some full bands to come back around and see some full band shows, to have some parties, and to be able to get out and enjoy that.
I agree.
And it also allows us to, open up our playbook too, because listen, I'll tell you what, I am very, very, very grateful and blessed for all the people that allow us to play acoustically at their restaurant, bar, venue, whatever it may be. I love it. And I make a living at it, knock on wood. But it's a different level of excitement when you can open that playbook and do some full band stuff. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely, no. It's going to be a good time. It's exciting, and I think the music marketplace is ready for a bit of a resurgence on the rock and roll side. A little rock and roll revival around here. I mean, Storage 24, Fred, and that bunch is getting it back together. Now, they're all original, and that's great, and they got a great following. I don't care, original, covers, whatever. I want to hear some rock and roll, not this garage band, Fondren type stuff. No knock on them. That just ain't what I listen to.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That indie rock type stuff, that just ain't my thing, but to each their own. You cater to what you like and be honest to yourself, and your crowd will find itself. But to get out and hear some stuff that I know all the words to, that I enjoy, that keeps me standing up and having fun. That's what a band like Full Moon Circus does. That's what y'all do when you go out and you play your acoustic stuff or unplugged stuff. I don't want to, I think acoustic gets a bad rap sometimes because people think it's going to be all sad songs, and that's definitely not what it is at all. It's definitely upbeat and fun stuff. There may be a ballad mixed in every now and then. But.
And it's all how it's presented, though. I mean, you can, like, what I do is totally different from what Darrell and Rob do, and what they do is totally different from what I do. And it's all subjective. Like, some people get what I do and some don't, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. Like, I sat out when I left Lillian Axe back in 2020 because I wanted to just get off the road and spend more time with my daughters, and retired. Everybody thought I was crazy. They're like, man, I can't believe you left. But you got to remember, I'd done it for so long. I never had a break because this is all I've ever done my entire life. And the kids today, and I say that, I don't mean that in a negative connotation, but the local musicians here and the musician scene, it's not unified, and it's not. I stick to myself. I talk to Darrell, talk to my great friend Jason Turner, some people like that. Bubba Wingfield is another good buddy, but it's very few and far between because there's no unity. And I've said that from day one. People hate on each other. Success breeds hate. I learned that a long time ago. And when I was like Clay, you and I were listening to Lillian Axe, and little did I know that I would ever become the singer.
Yeah.
And I've never changed. I've never talked about that publicly in Jackson. And that's a true story. I mean, if you watch the movie Rockstar, anywhere am I saying that I'm even close to that, because that's based on Priest.
But it's a regional version of the same thing.
Yeah, but to a national level, because we've played internationally, 32 countries, 3 continents. But what I'm getting at is, these the kids today, it's like, trying to get their respect. I just stopped. I mean, because I'm okay with what I've done, and I've never changed. When I wasn't touring with Lillian, I still came home and I still played acoustic shows. I never changed, ever. But, success breeds hate, and I hate that because I wish everybody would just be unified. And it's a hard business as it is already. And
gotta hang out with successful folks, man. You want to be successful?
If we could help each other, so many things would be better. And there's just so many people that don't even know myself or know Darrell or whoever, and they're not even willing to. I learned from observance. I learned from people like Steve Blaze, and God, I never had any idea I'd be able to play with him. And ironically, Darrell was with me when I got the call to audition, playing the last Full Moon Circus show coming from Florida. We were on 98. I remember pulling over. Darrell was with me because Darrell I was growing up watching Darrell. You were too. And of course, Darrell and I were friends even when I was real, real young, but I was watching Charade. I was watching Lillian Axe. Lillian Axe was bigger than life to us back then.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not like they were just a regional. They had videos on MTV. They were doing well. It's just MCA didn't push them the way they were. And they were going against Motley Crue, Skid Row. So they didn't have the push that they deserved. Steve Blaze is one of the kindest people that I've ever met, and one of the most underrated guitar players in the world. But he gave me a shot. But I got that call, ironically, on the last Full Moon Circus show, coming back from Florida, and he said, "Hey, Derek left, and would you like to try out?" And that's how that came about. And I was just dumbfounded because this is a band that I grew up listening to constantly. My dad was taking me to watch them with Queensryche or whoever, and to end up being able to sing for him for 12 years and do four albums, one EP and 2 full lengths, and then a single. Who would ever thought that?
No, that's awesome. All right, let's take a break real quick. This is the Clay Edwards Show, joined here live in the Mac Haik Fluid Studios by Brian Jones and Darrell Dirty D. Arnold. We'll be right back on 103.9. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show live here in the Mac Haik Fluid Studios. This segment is going to be brought to you by Ellis Autoplex. Get out there. See me this week. I'll be on boots on ground all week there at Ellis Autoplex, 2195 Highway 471 in Brandon. We are your used Ford truck capital of Rankin County. I would dare say capital of Mississippi. We call it Little Truck City. Of course, we got more than just Ford trucks. We got a couple of Dodge trucks too. We also have a nice selection of SUVs and even a couple of cars. We got a Lexus and an Infiniti car. But you can check out the website, ellisautoplex.com. You can also sell us your vehicle. That's right, man. We buy them right off the street. No fake cashier's checks like these marketplace scammers I see getting y'all all the time. Bring it by to us. Let us buy it from you. Save you the headache. Give you a good check, a good local check. You can run right to the bank and cash today. Ellis Autoplex, Rankin County's hometown dealership. Shout out to my Ellis Autoplex family. Great Super Bowl party yesterday. Thank you to Casey and Rachel for hosting all of us. Had a great time. All right. Joined live here in the studio by the one and only Mr. Dirty D, Darrell Arnold, and Brian Jones. We were kind of wrapping up the local music scene stuff. Brian, you just, at the end of the day, you feel like it just needs to be a little more unity, a little less trash talk.
Yeah, it's been like that forever. And I mean, I just don't. And maybe I should practice what I preach and talk about it through education and trying to help. But a lot of these, and I see that it's, and this may offend people, but I mean, it's typically what I've seen. It comes from the younger crowd, not the older crowd. So like my like myself or Darrell or other older musicians that have been doing this a long time, we seem to take the brunt of it. The younger kids, man, there's a lot of talent out there, and instead of helping one another, it seems like they're just tearing each other down and definitely trying to tear us down. So that bothers me. Always has. As far as
it is a different time period, though. Obviously.
Yeah, and they weren't. These kids weren't even alive when we were gigging. So I mean, they I don't know. I don't know how they view us, and I don't really concern myself with it. But I wish that it was a more unified environment. They don't look at accomplishments and things of that nature. And I've never changed. Darrell never changed when we got our lucky breaks, and
But I do think what makes me feel good, like if I'm playing at one of the local venues that I play at, that I do enjoy this part. There'll be a lot of young people that come up and ask for music that I had no idea that they would have listened to. So that means they either A, had cool parents or educated themselves on good music. Now that does happen a lot, so that's the good part. That's the rewarding part of all of it.
Yeah, I mean, like your peers aren't always going to like you or appreciate what you're doing.
And of course
at the end
not.
of the day,
No.
I mean, and look,
and that's the way it is in any industry. Though.
Go work in sales.
Yeah, I know. I have.
Your coworkers are actively rooting and partaking in your failure. So it is what it is.
Success breeds hate. I mean, it's sad that it does.
I have sold cars, so I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's survival of the sickest.
Yeah.
It really is. And just
envy, man, having real estate in someone's head, I just don't understand that premise because you're wasting your life away.
Well, it's if you acknowledge them, you're feeding into what they want. Just ignore them and move on, and they'll end up doing the same.
Do what you do.
Yep, that is. You can't change people. They got foul hearts.
Yeah, that's
it
true.
is what it is. Let's see here, man. I made a few little notes. Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Something talking about growing up in South Jackson. I pick at you about this a good bit. Hadn't talked about it in a while. You were the first people I've ever seen. I wish we had cameras back in the day. You're one of the first people I've ever seen the McDonald's staff jump. You remember that on McDowell Road?
Yeah, that's a true story. If that had happened now, though, that would have been unheard of. But back then, that was swept under the rug, and I could have owned. And Clay knows
it was the McDonald's on McDowell, right?
I could have owned that trademark. I mean, if you literally think about what happened to us, to make a long story short, on McDowell Road, what Clay is talking about was myself and I won't mention the other names, but two of my friends. We were at McDonald's.
I saw it happen.
Yeah, not doing anything, and asked for ketchup or something simplistic, and they threw a bunch of stuff at us at one time, like ketchup packets and all this. These were workers, by the way, and
young little Democrats.
Yeah, and so some words ensued, and it was three of us and about 20 of McDonald's employees. They physically locked the door, and they fought us. We got jumped by 20 people. Ended up going to the hospital and all that. So it was weird. We did well considering it was three of us and 20 of them. But why we never pursued that, I don't know. If it was more because we were afraid our parents were going to really have a problem because we were in high school.
Different world back then.
We were literally beat. I mean, we were beat up, gang beat by 20 employees of the biggest fast food chain in the world.
So
why wouldn't
if that would have happened in 2023, my friend, you would have owned McDonald's.
Yeah,
but I probably could have then, and I to this day, that's funny. Clay mentioned that. I don't know why we didn't pursue that. I think I know why one of them didn't pursue it because he had some. He had some problems with the law that he didn't want to draw attention to himself. But that was the most bizarre thing, and that's funny you mentioned that because I kind of forgot about that.
And I didn't mention it to be facetious towards you at all. I mentioned it to document the crumbling of Jackson.
Yeah,
the cracks were in the foundation.
It was
it
had already started back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it just because that was high school, man. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was
93, 94.
Yeah.
So, that's so bizarre that you mentioned that, but that was a true story.
It was.
Because if you had seen that now, it would have been unheard of.
Somebody would have filmed it.
Yeah, I mean, but if they had to put that on YouTube back then, that would be unheard of. But if you put that on YouTube now, even the shockingest things are now, that would still be unheard of.
Now, I don't eat fast food. I haven't in years, but I've had Chick-fil-A twice in the last 3 years, and I hadn't had any other kind of fast food. But the shocking part of that story more than anything is that there were 20 employees.
I was about to say
at McDonald's at one time.
Yeah.
Well, now they're lucky if there's two.
Yeah. It was between 18 and 20 for sure. I mean, because we were there was no way we could do anything, and we finally got saved because. Not by McDonald's, not by the cops, but by our own peers that broke through the window to come get us.
And if there's anyone listening out there, and this is a honest question, this is not a knock or a joke, I would love to know the formula that all these people have now who don't have to work, but I can't understand how they pay rent and eat.
I can't either.
Yeah, especially after Tate did away with the
welfare assistance.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if anybody knows the answer to that,
because the lobbies are still closed. So I'm still hearing that. Even my car being in the shop, which is a new car, and GM's even having problems, and they still. It drives me crazy because they're still using. And I don't want to get off music or whatever Clay want to talk about, but real quick, the COVID thing. They still use that excuse for everything in terms of. Yeah, shipping hasn't been the same since COVID, or, this isn't coming on time because of COVID, or this isn't doing that because of COVID. Still lobbies are still closed because of worker shortages. Where's that? I'm like, Darrell, where's that coming from? At least in the state of Mississippi. I can't speak for other states because I don't know their legislature, but I do know that Tate did away with it. So how are people making money?
A lot of people have gotten
to survive off 114 a week or something.
A lot of people have become very content with doing with less.
Yeah. But I understand. But how can you physically do that and live in a home? I mean, did they have money saved up? I'm like, it's very perplexing to me because I'm like, Darrell, how are these people?
They're living like a bunch of refugees.
Getting by not working.
I do know that certain people in this state are, which I'm in support of, are coming down on a lot of these people that got these so-called PPP loans or whatever they were, illegally, basically, and they've been living off that, and they weren't even supposed to be able to get one. So I'll wrap that conversation up because we're running out of time. But before we get off this subject real quick, please try and come out to the Byram Swinging Bridge because it's good for family fun, and I'll leave that one alone, too.
All right, let's take our last break, come back. Hey, don't forget, I will be here for a third hour with Allison Noe doing our weekly health show. Caller that's on hold, stay on hold. We'll end the show with you. This is the Clay Edwards Show. We'll be right back.
And Full Moon's doing the Shaggy Show, remember?
When necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show live in the Mac Haik of Flowood Studios. We got about 2 minutes left with my guys, Brian Jones and Darrell Dirty D Arnold. Guys, I appreciate y'all coming in this morning. Appreciate y'all supporting local music, keeping the scene going, bringing back a good rock band in Full Moon Circus. Let's show these up-and-coming kids. Like my daughter will be 21 this month. They're out there. They see y'all perform in other places. Let's let them see what a rock band looks like. And that ain't no offense to the other rock bands out there. We just need more of you.
That's right. I agree.
And get out there and doing some big things. It's cool to see some of the bands that I grew up promoting and being entertained by. And
hanging out with,
getting back together.
And hosting.
Doing it all, man. Look, this show's evolved. We ain't just politics anymore. We're culture. We talk everything from dating to music to everything else in between. Kind of the Howard Stern before he turned into a idiot. It's kind of how I fancy this show.
I can't listen to that guy anymore.
I wish our music license allowed me to play music. I was talking about that Friday. I mean, I can play stuff from independent artists that allow me to play their stuff at main. I would love to play a few songs, talk a little, mix it up a little more. But hey, this talk radio, so this is what we do. We talk.
That's right.
Guys, open invitation anytime. Looking forward to seeing y'all April 28th, 29th at the Swinging Bridge Festival in Byron. Full Moon Circus getting back together that Saturday night, opening up for driving and crying. You can follow these guys on social media. Go check out Charade Unplugged.
And Brian Jones, of course.
Yep. I tagged them, shared the post. I'll do that again with the podcast. All right, coming up next, Allison Noe for our Whole Story Health Hour. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow at 7 a.m. as the Clay Edwards Show discusses all that is going on in and around the city of Jackson.
This concludes our broadcast day.
Right here on 103.9 WYAB.